This store is my best. Hey there. Martin, I have 5 kids and grandkids now. I need to get them some fire lamps. André Rieu made a lot of money by dancing waltzes, but he just stopped everything after a scary accident. By the time he was 74, his body had enough. Fans were sent home, shows were canceled, and now his son runs his huge business company. The shocking truth? This man may have to quit, even though he swore he'd play until he was 140. He does 100 shows a year and owns 80 properties. His last show in Maastricht might be the last time we see him. He was born in Maastricht, Netherlands in 1949. His family loved music a lot, but it was hard for them to find love. A lot of people knew him as the director of the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra, a man who took things seriously and valued discipline over love. André was the third of 6 kids. As a kid, their house felt more like a military base than a place for kids to play. Hugs and comfort were hard to come by. He grew up with strict Roman Catholic parents who liked rules and kept quiet. Friends were not allowed to come over. They weren't laughing much. André once said, "My parents didn't love me very much." It wasn't a guess. It was something he really thought. He thought about it a lot. The cold style of André's parents didn't go well with his natural energy from a young age. His mother was so worried about her son's grades and music practice that she was hurt when teachers called him an artist. That way of thinking made André feel like he wasn't seen unless he was doing a great job. He went to therapy for years to try to figure out why his childhood felt so empty. But maybe that hunger turned into fire. He used it as fuel to change the way people around the world hear classical music one day. Something strange happened when I was 5 years old. He fell in love with his music teacher, not the violin itself. She was 18 years old, blonde and pretty. Because she was so interesting to him, he barely paid attention in class, but having a crush on her made him want to play all the time. He didn't care about style or numbers. It was all he could do to play like her. He watched her hands, how she moved them, and how she played. Within a few weeks, while other kids were still having trouble with basic notes, André had figured out vibrato, which is the way that music sounds alive with feeling. That's what stuck with him, not how great it was. Things between him and his father only got worse as he got older. It was too stiff and serious for André to play classical music. He wished for it to be happy, fun, and full of life. But that thought was rude to his dad. His father yelled, "I didn't teach you how to do waltzes," when André said he wanted to play waltzes. It was a rude turn down. It got even colder when André brought home Marjorie, the woman he would marry. His mother didn't greet her. She told her to leave and told André to go back to his clean room like a kid. That was the last blow. She left with him, and he never looked back. After that, his parents never went to another one of his events, not even when he was doing huge shows all over the world. His father died in 1992, but he never got to see what André had become. But while all of this was going on, André was making a plan. He began to notice something odd while playing in his dad's orchestra. They didn't seem to care about the music for the most part, talked about the weather. They were upset about their pay. It had no life. During the encores, though, something magical took place. A Strauss waltz would be played by the musicians, and the crowd would suddenly come to life. People laughed and smiled. They made a hum. The power changed. He knew then that he wanted to play this kind of music, not to please reviewers, but to make people feel something. His soft music one day was a surprise for a dying woman who hadn't opened her eyes in days. But when the music started, she opened the doors. At that point, André knew what music was really about. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about how you felt. That's when the thought of making his own group began to grow. André began small in 1978 when he was 29 years old, had a new baby at home, and didn't have much money to spend. He got together a small group of players to form the Maastricht Salon Orchestra. Anywhere they could, they played. Towns on the border with Germany and Belgium, weddings and townhouses. Most people had forgotten about the waltzes and cabaret music they played. It wasn't exciting. They didn't have much money. He didn't care, though. It was something he loved to do. He played Franz Lehr's Golden and Silver Waltz one night at a small show. He put all of his heart into it, and he could feel something change. It seemed like the music was talking to him. He made up his mind that night. He was going to do this. It didn't bother him if people said it was corny. It didn't bother him if the rich and powerful laughed. He thought that classical music could be happy. He wouldn't stop until everyone else saw it too. In 1987, André Rieu reached a certain point in his life. He was almost 40 years old and had been in charge of the Master Salon Orchestra for almost 10 years. But something didn't feel right. There was no longer any thrill. The limits were easy to see. It was no longer enough to use the old structure. It was bigger what he wanted. He wanted to do more than just play music. He wished to make magic happen. Johann Strauss used to play the violin and lead at the same time, moving his whole body to the music. This made people happy and amazed. Forced that fun, that feeling of being living. Rieu wished it would happen again, but making the choice wasn't easy. When I started something new, I was taking a huge chance. It cost real money to hire skilled musicians, and he wasn't wealthy. He had to pull in more money for himself for every artist he hired. There was no guarantee of bookings, and classical music wasn't known for taking chances. He knew he had to try, though. The first show of his new group, the Johann Strauss Orchestra, took place on January 1, 1988. It was not big. There were only 12 artists and a small crowd. But something felt off. Rieu did not do what was asked of him. It's not like him to dress the musicians in black. He didn't make the stage quiet and proper. He brought humor, folk music, dramatic lighting, and a sense of the theater. Some people didn't like it. People said it was cheap and silly, but the crowd liked it. The people there smiled, clapped, and took part. Rieu was determined not to lose the spark he had found. Then something happened that made everything different. It was May 1995, and the Champions League final was going on in Vienna. There was a fight between Ajax and Bayern Munich, and something strange happened at halfway. Rieu and his musicians came out on the field and played Shostakovich's Waltz No. 2. Someone in the Netherlands had heard the song in a TV ad, but no one was ready for what happened next. Around 50,000 football fans in the stadium started to move, hum, and get lost in the music. No one had ever seen anything like it before. Live video feeds of the event reached 300 million people in Europe. After that, Rieu sold 200,000 CDs in a few weeks. The record Strauss & Company, which came out the previous year, went viral all of a sudden. It stayed at the top of the Dutch album charts for 19 weeks in a row, making it the best-selling album in the country, all of 2010. Classical music fans who had never been interested in it before bought his records, went to his shows, and fell in love with waltzes. But people who study music still say that football game was the time when André Rieu became more than just a violinist. But not everyone was happy. Hard hits came back from the world of classical music. Someone lied about him, said he was breaking tradition, and said he was making music that was hundreds of years old into a circus. A famous conductor was criticized so badly in one piece that he called his shows musical pornography. The reviewers didn't like the loud jokes, the bright costumes, the simple sets, or the simple arrangements. In 2008, when Rieu built a copy of Vienna's Schönbrunn Palace, things got even worse. Fountains, ice rinks, horses, and everything else were just for the stage background. Purists were shocked that it cost 34 million euros. Rieu didn't give up, though. He thought that everyone should be able to enjoy music, not just professionals in concert rooms. His goal was for everyone, kids, parents, teachers, cleaners, to enjoy the same music that was once kept secret by strict rules. It was hard to hide the truth. A lot of people loved him. They crammed into his shows. They danced in the aisles. They bought records too, a lot of them. Strauss and his band were already famous in 1994, but after that show in 1995, it went through the roof. It sold 750,000 copies in just a few months in the Netherlands. Rarely does classical music make it into the top 5 on the charts in Germany, but this one did. It sold more than 3 million copies around the world by the time it reached its peak. In major European markets, it sold more than Celine Dion, Bon Jovi, and other big pop stars. Due to his work, even big record shops began to stock more classical music. People who work in the field called it the Rieu effect. Universal Music said that more money was made from his albums than from those of any other classical act. He changed more than just music. He changed the business as well. From that one dangerous choice in 1987, everything came about. People thought he was cocky when he named his band after Johann Strauss. He showed them they were wrong over time. He brought Strauss back to life, not replaced him. By the 1980s, Strauss's waltzes were becoming less trendy. They were not played by many people. Strauss's music had been played 16 times more often by 2010, mostly because of Rieu. It started out with only 12 players and now has more than 60, making it even bigger than Strauss's group. To honor Strauss's 100th birthday in 1999, Rieu put out a tribute record and talked about how much he admired him. Even the government of Austria gave him one of their top national awards for preserving the music of the country. Rieu did more than just play classical music. He made it famous all over the world. No one thought a musician would do what he did in 2008. He made a huge copy of Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna and showed it off all over the world. This is a real house that he took with him all over the world. It was more than just a background. It had real waterfalls, ice rinks, chandeliers, and even Prague-style horse-drawn carriages. The Rolling Stones had never made anything bigger, and it wasn't just for show. It was Rieu's dream to share the magic of Vienna with people who could never afford to visit. The planning was crazy. The stage took 100 people 6 days to build each time he did it, but it was worth it. In Europe and Australia, arenas were packed with people. He played in front of 38,605 people at the Telstra Dome in Melbourne alone, which broke the record for the largest classical concert ever held in Australia. Nearly 90,000 people came to all 3 shows in that city. While he was still in Europe, he sold out stadiums just as quickly. In Australia, at one point, 8 of the top 10 spots on the charts were taken by his DVDs. Pink and AC/DC were the only ones who got in. It wasn't just a run of good luck. Rieu's concerts were so famous that he made it into the top 10 of the world's highest-grossing tours, where he was in the same group as Madonna and the Police. That's pretty good for someone who is known as the King of the Waltz. And if that wasn't enough, he won more than 500 silver awards for selling albums and DVD. No one else has ever played that number in classical music. Universal Music gave him a special chrome violin trophy to mark the event. People in the music business said they'd never seen anyone so successful. But not everything was shining in gold. In 2016, tragedy struck during a UK Christmas tour that was meant to be happy. Ruud Merkix, Rieu's longtime trombonist, had a sudden heart attack while he was sleeping while the orchestra was in Leeds. He had been with Rieu for more than 20 years. His wife was there with him. She plays the violin in the group too. Back at home, they had 2 kids. The group felt like they were hit in the chest by the moment. Rieu didn't think twice. He called off the show in Nottingham that night. He soon after put off the rest of the UK tour. The calendar no longer has London, Birmingham, Manchester, or Glasgow on it. There was a reason why Rieu called his band a family. A lot of them had worked for him for over 25 years. It was terrible to lose a family member right before Christmas. He was taken back to the Netherlands, but he died there 5 days later. Something was different when Rieu finally got back to the UK in March. The magic was still there, but not as many people were there. He remembered what took place in December, as did everyone else. Before March 2024, André Rieu's return to Mexico City almost broke him. He had spent decades making people happy with his music. At age 74, he was still traveling the world like he was half his age, until all of a sudden, his body gave out.